full hit style workout in a veranda based gym. So I'm starting here by doing a wall sit, but it's not a typical wall sit. It's an overcoming isometric. So I'm basically pushing as hard as I can up using the friction of the wall against my butt to stop me from going up. Now, the reason I'm doing this is to pre exhaust my legs. That's one reason, so that I don't have to use quite as much weight to get the same level of intensity, but it's also to warm up my joints and get everything down there ready for the exertion that's to come. Okay, so it's a 24K kettlebell I've got here, and I'm basically just going to be doing goblet squats until failure. Now you'll see that I'm going pretty low there, but I'm never locking out my knees or even getting close to locking out my knees at the top, right? Keeping that tension in the muscles. And this is going to cause me to reach failure much, much faster than if I were to do a full range squat where I was able to rest at the top of each rep. Now, I like to do these sort of overcoming isometrics prior to a number of different exercises. You'll see me do these throughout this workout, and I don't always do them, and it kind of is by feel, but especially with leg exercises, I like to do them because otherwise the sets take really long or I have to use a lot of weight. Okay, you can see I'm getting pretty close to failure here, but continuing to pushing through it, and the video's getting a little janky. Oosh, that was failure. Okay, unable to complete that rep. Okay, now I'm going to go straight into body weight squats with the same sort of truncated range of motion. So I'm not even getting close to the top, but going nice and low and pausing a little bit at the bottom there to really accentuate that hold. And I'm already stuck. So that prior set pretty much destroyed me already. I was only able to get one. Okay, and now I'm going to do a horse stance. So I'm just going to stay here, and this is going to be a yielding isometric. So I'm going to call this a hat trick set. Okay, these are called hat trick sets from the Synergy Strength system that I came up with. So it starts with an overcoming isometric, then you have dynamic to failure, and then you go into a hold, a yielding isometric. Okay, and that pretty much toasted my legs. You see how quickly I failed there. But I'm going to keep going. So what I'm going to do here is sissy squats. I'm holding onto these bars here, and this is to really target the quads, the front of the legs, the teardrop muscle and stuff. Oof, and I'm already failed because my legs are so worn out already from the initial sets. Okay. But what I'll do to prolong the set here is I will, as you can see, sort of stand up, but then do the negative, real slow, controlled negatives for the sissy squats. And then I'll basically do like a Hindu squat to stand up with a little bit of assistance. I'm going to try to basically just hold there for a second, and I don't have anything. So what I end here with is a stretch. So I'm just going to stretch the legs. The stretched position is the better position for building muscle. So I'm putting my legs in a stretch. This is extremely painful. And what I'm doing is resisting that stretch. Sort of, it's a very stretched out position overcoming isometric, but I don't have much strength left at that point. Okay, now to get to the posterior chain, make sure that I hit my hamstrings and my glutes as well. I'm going to do single leg hip thrusts. These are fantastic exercise. You don't need any equipment for them, and they really are great for that posterior chain. They're going to be a little bit more glute dominant than they are hamstring dominant for most people, but especially in this position, if you put your based leg, if you separate that a little bit further out or extend it a little bit more so that your leg is a little bit straighter, then it'll hit your hamstring a bit more. But I believe I was a little sore after these the next day in my hamstring, so it got them enough. Okay, so you can see me just pushing these to failure. I get stuck here, and I give myself a little assistance to get up to the top. Really trying to get those last reps with this and give myself a little bit of assistance with my off leg to make sure I can get enough time under tension and really push the intensity. So a little bit of assistance there. You can also see I'm just pulling that leg, that off leg, I'm pulling it in closer to change the levers and give myself a little bit more of a mechanical advantage. Now I'm just trying to hold, I think, in this last part. And Yeah, that was the end. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing on the other leg. Now, another thing you could do with these if you want to accentuate the hamstring is you could add an isometric squeeze at the top. When you get to the top position there, act like you're doing a leg curl, but the friction will stop your leg and that'll really activate that hamstring like crazy. So I generally start my workouts by hitting legs because I feel like they are my body part that's most in need of work, and I want to make sure I have nice strong legs. And typically, even if I'm doing a barbell squat or something like that, I will do a hinge motion as well, at least. So barbell squat followed by like a Romanian deadlift or something like that. Today I didn't do that because I didn't know how many people have barbells, so I just used a kettlebell. And then this other stuff you can do without any equipment. Certainly, dumbbell works just as well for goblet squats, but I had a kettlebell, so that's what I used. Okay, again, you can see me shifting my leg back, creating a different mechanical setup to make it easier. And now I'm trying to hold, and reaching failure there. And now my legs are basically torched. I can barely stand up. Okay. So now I'm going to go to a sort of pull up, but it's like a pullover style pull up. And what I'm doing here is an isometric. I'm pushing down, trying to activate my lats a whole lot because I want the lats to be active. Now you're going to see this is a little bit sloppy to begin with. I haven't spent a lot of time doing this exercise, but I'm trying to get pullovers into my routine more, as I find that when I do them, I really like the way they feel, and I'm trying to find a way to do them with body weight because I don't have enough space in my veranda. But this did end up destroying me, so it's a little bit ugly, but it works like intensely well. I would recommend if you're going to try this, you probably don't even need to do that isometric to begin with. You don't need the pre-fatigue. The reason I did it was both because it's easy and also because I figured it would activate my lats and get them really involved. But I failed too quickly on the first one, so I'm actually going to do multiple sets of this one. But you could see that was a pretty short break in between there. Someone's trying to bring me a package. They always do this when I am recording things. And they're just going to have to wait because you all come first. So I'm actually going to end up doing, I think, 3 sets of this. Maybe I just do a hold this time. But, if really, so I'm just trying to do a hold here and go real slow on the way down. And that totally destroyed my lats. And so now I'm getting the stretch here. I'm resisting the stretch, but I'm stretching them out. And that didn't last very long because they were in lots of pain. Okay, now I think I'm going to go right into dips. But you'll see when I do my dips, I keep my feet on the ground. You actually, for most people, if you're doing them nice and slow and not locking out at all, you really don't need to take your feet off the ground. It's just going to give you more stability, and it's going to allow you to really tailor how heavy your body weight feels, because you can use your legs for a little bit of assistance at the beginning. There's not really any assistance there. I'm doing actual dips, but as I get closer and closer to failure, those legs provide just a little bit of assistance to help me get those to eat, squeeze out those last couple reps. So for anybody who's training at home, I really highly recommend putting in sort of calisthenic exercises like these where you can use your body parts that aren't the primary focus, like your legs usually, to help assist you to get more. So you'll see I'm going to switch my feet up here as I think it gives me a little bit more assistance. And I'm trying to do a real slow negative here, real slow negative, as slow as I can do it. And now I'm just going to stretch out that chest, resisting the stretch to get a little bit of more isometric contraction in the lengthened position. These sorts of things are painful, but they definitely work. more time under tension, and in that lengthened position where muscle growth happens easiest. Okay, now it's on to rows, I believe. Yep, so I'm going to use the same bars. And now again, I'm going to use my legs for assistance when necessary. But if you can find a way to do body weight rows like this, man, these are fantastic. Probably even better than pull-ups. Just the angle of movement is even better. And my lats are already torched from doing that pullover thing before. I did that one first. Normally what I would do is I would get my chest first, and then I would get my back, as my back is a little bit more developed. But because I'm trying to get that, incorporate those pullovers, and my technique isn't quite there yet, I put it first. But also a pullover is going to hit your chest as well as your back. So because it incorporates more, I did it first. Okay, and you can see I'm hitting failure on these. Okay, now I'm going to try to do a slow, really slow negative here. I'm actually not even trying to do a negative. I'm trying to hold myself. I just don't have the strength anymore to hold myself. Whew. Exhausted. All right, what comes next? I think we're on to shoulders now, right? So that's generally the order that I go in: legs, chest, back, shoulders. Um, yeah, okay. So I'm going to start with front raises. Now, front raises are really fantastic for not only your, I didn't used to do them, but I realized how great they are, not just for your shoulders, but also for your upper pecs. They really work your upper pecs, especially when you're using this palms up grip on the dumbbells. So I generally start with these because they involve upper pec as well as shoulder. That's the position you're going to be in. It's not just your shoulder. Okay. And then after I finish these, I'm going to switch over to upright rows. No, sorry. I'm going to do a hold first. Try to hold it for as long as I can. And it doesn't last very long. Real slow negative there. Okay. Now we're on to upright rows. Now these are for my side delts, the side of my shoulders, and also for the upper back, even though I've already basically fried that. But I haven't really hit the sides of my shoulders yet, so I'm gonna do these to get it. Upright rows are another really fantastic exercise, but you do want to do them with something that has a flexible handle. So like barbell on upright rows are not something I recommend. They don't tend to be good for people's shoulders, but doing them with dumbbells or doing them with a kettlebell that has like a towel through the handle or something like that, totally cool, very good for your shoulders in my experience. Okay, you can see I'm really pushing, trying to get that last one, and totally failed. Okay, so now I'm gonna hit some Arnold presses. Make sure I run my shoulders through a couple different planes of motion, movement patterns to get the, yeah, because you can see I can still get a bunch more. Now these are light weights, right? This is like 7.5 kilos in each hand, so it's not heavy. Normally, I'd be able to press a lot more than that, but at this point they're so fatigued. But there still was enough uh, power left in them to do a couple more reps. So make sure I, completely exhaust them. Okay. Now I'm going to get to seated incline curls, the kind where your arms are sort of behind you, not the ones where they're in front of you. I like these. I started doing these kind of recently, and again, it comes down to that stretched position, the muscle being in a lengthened position. Tends to be better for building muscle. So, because these put my biceps in a lengthened position, I like them. They also tend to feel good, and I've had problems with my bicep tendon, which shows up in the shoulder before, and these don't aggravate that quite as much. Yep. Really squeezing, making sure I'm not resting at the bottom there, right? No rest at the bottom, smooth turnaround, curling up. You could probably pause at the top if you wanted to, but I don't know if it adds a whole lot, especially considering I'm trying to really work that length, that longer position. So I want to spend more time in the longer position here because I can. I tend with biceps, and I'm going to do it on this set as well. Okay, go to failure on it, reach failure, try to get a couple little partial reps there in that. Ooh, oh, I kind of squeezed out that last one. Half rep there. Okay, now what I tend to do with biceps is I'll do a normal bicep exercise, then I'll switch to a hammer curl variation because you tend to be a lot stronger in the hammer curl, the neutral grip variation. It involves a different muscle, a sort of larger muscle that lies underneath the typical what you think of as the biceps muscle, and it's one that's going to give your arms a lot more size if you develop it, and you can get a couple more. So that's why I tend to go with hammer curl as well. And then I'll even do them standing where I have more of a mechanical advantage. You can see I can still pound out a couple more here. Nice and slow though, not losing form. And that's failure. Now I'll probably do a negative. Yep, flip them up there and just go back to normal for this because negative is so much stronger than the positive portion of the rep. Holding, holding, holding. Not trying to let them down. They're just too heavy for me at this point. Okay. Now I'll probably give a stretch on those biceps as I've been doing. I didn't do the initial overcoming isometric on this. So this would be another hat trick set. I'm doing dynamic to failure, then I'm doing yielding isometrics, and I'm putting in the stretch at the end. So it's a sort of 3-part set, even though the dynamic to failure portion was a multi-part one with those hammer curls in it. Okay. That's going to do my biceps. I'm going to get in on my triceps next, I believe. I'm trying to, so I have an idea, but I'm going to scrap that idea and go with something I've never done before because it looks like it might work and it ends up working really well. And it's basically like a kind of modified push-up here. It's very hard to do push-ups on the veranda because it's filthy and it's at an angle. The ground is at an angle, so like you can't really do them out there very well. But doing them on this bench worked really well for my triceps. And you can do this on the ground, but you can also just do it on a wall. Just make sure that you're not locking out, and you can move your legs as seems necessary to give yourself the right amount of resistance to really provide the perfect challenge. More to get into the sticking point. Another nice thing about this style of training is that it is a little bit more like jazz. Like I go in knowing what I want to do, not knowing like I have some exercises that I'm thinking of doing, but you can see I just called an audible here and tried this exercise because I was like, oh, this might work, and it ends up working great, and it's a new stimulus and it keeps things fresh. So you go in with a couple principles. Like, what are the principles? Like, it would be, hit the muscles you want to develop most, hit those first, start with compounds, and then go to isolations, right? Train with intensity, go to failure. Generally incorporate multi-stage sets. So things like, the hold at the end or the stretch or these sorts of things, incorporate those when possible. Okay, and because this workout's going so quickly, you have time to do stuff like train your neck. So I'm going to do a real quick neck training set here. Okay, thumbs under my chin to provide resistance at the beginning, but I won't need resistance for very long. If you're not training your neck, you are missing out on a very important muscle group to train. Not only because it protects your brain, which is a pretty important part of your body, but also because the neck is basically is one of the muscles that people see the most. So if you want to look more muscular, one of the easiest things you can do is just train your neck. There's unless you're wearing turtlenecks all the time, then people are going to be seeing your neck a lot, and it can completely change your aesthetic. And normally people don't have a lot of time, or they feel like they don't have enough time to train neck. Well, I spend too much time doing junk volume and unnecessary sets. Okay, make sure you do both. Raising your head, both with facing up and facing down. I'm going to make this a short set though, because I am aware of the camera on me and probably that this is boring for people who are watching. So I could do this for probably a bit longer than I end up doing it. But oh no, that's why my camera fell over. I forgot about that. Yeah. So that's what stopped me from finishing this up. And everything's okay. All right. Set it back up here. Okay, and then I'm going to finish up with a little bit of abdominals, but I'm just going to be doing isometric for this. So I'm just pushing down here, really trying to activate my abs, and I'm also going to be twisting. So I'm twisting to the left, twisting to the right, and then pushing straight down, so that I'm really getting the obliques. I'm sort of making my abs work in different angles create different angles of force. And that's going to do it. Quick, brutal, very effective. Right now, I'm considering whether to take my shirt off, and I decided to do it, get a little bit of sun, but also show off the pump I get from that exercise. And that's my arm. I use that for eating and writing things and all sorts of other stuff. And hope you enjoy. Thanks.